evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Professor and the Pupil. You know who the professor is? That is me. You know who the pupil it is Steve. But you know what? He's a quick study anyway, so what's the difference? Glad to have you back on, Steve.
It's always a pleasure, my friend.
So the big theme on this particular show is the word force. How am I going to use it? Oh, you got to know it will be in a couple of ways. One of them pertains to the story that Mr. Steve wrote. Last week we talked about Tony Stewart. Now we're going with another NHRA performer by the name of Brittany Force, who does it again. This time she goes 338 miles per hour, 338.48 miles per hour. Can't forget that point 48. She's the daughter of John Forrest. Why don't you let everybody know, Stephen, a little bit about the crux of that article and what enticed you to consider something like that?
I mean, basically, the force name has been a force to be reckoned with in the NHRA circuit and things of that nature. John Force is without a doubt the biggest name when it comes to funny car, top fuel car, your short drag strip racing there, and he's been retired for a number of years, and all three of his daughters have all been racing for some time, but Brittany is the first champion, and as you were talking, hitting that 338 mark was the first record that she hit for top speed. That this will be 2 weekends ago. She broke it again, doing a 341 mile an hour pace. So she's literally and figuratively flying down the track as it is right now. She isn't just riding Daddy's coattails. It's her team. It's not it's John Force's team or anything like that. This is on Brittany's back, Brittany's shoulders. However you want to explain that, and it's refreshing to say, she's out on her own, she's doing her own thing, and she's making her stamp in the sport and making her own name at this point in time. Set a record a few years ago, rebroke it 2 weeks ago. It's not anything to kind of shy away from. Like we were just talking, you got Tony Stewart getting involved last week, and we got Brittany kind of making her stamp in the sport right now as we're going along there. Interesting to see what else she can do on her own as we move along in the days and weeks and months moving forward.
Well, one of my mentors over the years is named Charlie Vince. I think he worked I know he worked in the Detroit area, and I repeat, Charlie Vincent. He's also in my book, and under lessons from the microphone, excuse me. And he always said you have to be versatile in every sport. The one thing I really give you a ton of credit for, and a lot of writers don't get it, but evidently you got it pretty quick, is you have to think outside the box. When I saw you send us that email story idea of Brittany Force, I mean, this guy is starting to figure it out. And I tell that to every journalist. Anybody can be tied to one sport. I get it. That's the beat you're going to get. But once again, I repeat, you have to think outside the box, Stephen. And that's what you did when you put Brittany Force on the South Florida Tribune website. Great stuff. And so how do you feel knowing that you're able to think outside the box to come up with this idea?
I mean, that's kind of what I'm always going to do. I don't like to kind of hold myself to one sport or one team or anything like that. I kind of like to mix things up. Obviously, I'm always going to be Philadelphia centric. It's my hometown, it's my backyard, it's my stomping grounds. But
right.
I've never been scared to kind of step outside of that. When I first kind of gotten into the media world, it was more combat sports and UFC, MMA, boxing, things of that nature, where you're meant to kind of go out of that your initial comfort zone of what on a regular basis. So I'm going to continue to do that. Already sent you a few more articles. There's a Philly-based article, and then we have another combat sports based article. I actually sent you an article the other day that I'm going to kind of collaborate with all you on to see how we want to proceed with that. As far as a boxing legend's name's been getting drugged through the dirt for entirely too long, and we need to open the skeletons in the closet that's been going on. So I'll always kind of mix things up and go to different sports and go to different areas. It's something I think that anyone who's an inspiring media member, podcaster, don't just go with everything. be teachable, learn things that from other fan bases and other writers and other media members. It's only going to make you better in the long run, and it puts you in a position where you can never not know something about either a sport, an athlete, someone involved in the sport, things of that nature.
Well, another one of my mentors, Andy Lascano, used to work in South Florida, always taught me be different. Apparently, you seem to be getting that. So the main thing you have to understand, Stephen, as we talk about the profession of people, what talks a lot about my traits of what I've learned throughout the years is be different and think outside the box. And judging by what you've done with Brittany Force, that seems to
Well,
be
even
the lesson. Let me finish. The
okay.
lesson that you've learned. That's okay. The lesson that you've learned about what you're doing, about being different and thinking outside the box. It's a compliment to you, by the way, Stephen. It really
Appreciate
is. And
it.
Charlie Vincent and Andy Lascano, and I'll mention more and more individuals as time goes on, are the ones that taught me early. And you're relatively early in this game in terms of being an active writer. We know we know you've been really good on the air, and your ability to collaborate in social media has been outstanding. My goal here is to develop you as a writer, because I've always been a firm believer if you can write well, then you're going to be able to talk on the air. And I think that as time goes on, you're picking this up anyhow, but that's not my talk about everybody else. Go ahead, continue. I just
Yeah,
want to
but
make sure.
also like as you're saying, just thinking out of the box and doing different. Like you can look at the interview we did last night. We had
Right.
Sean Merriman's son on. He's he's in high school right now. Like in reality, when you look at what like the media world does, really shouldn't have him on. But listen, we're going through. So he's a quarterback. He's a former NFL player's son.
Right.
He's got 3 more years of high school left even before he gets to college. He's going to be getting like what we're doing is we're kind of getting him ready for what he should expect from the media world and things of that nature. So you don't want to just like when you're booking interviews, when you're booking it, not always have to go after the big fish or the big star or whoever.
Right.
Find some of the guy where you all can talk about something and relate things together and things of that nature. It's always fun having conversations, getting perspectives from different people.
No question about that. I'll even take what you're saying a step further. If you've ever covered spring training before, and this is really necessary. Hi, Ralph. Thanks for being on. He's a guy that Ralph Williams is one guy that's learning in my system, and obviously he's come a long way from when I inherited him. A little information about Ralph: he's a disabled individual who's very has a lot of shows going out there, and I appear on his sports rep on Saturdays, and he's the type of guy where I'm the executive producer on his show, where every top goes through me, and then I say, all right, go ahead and do it. So Ralph is certainly an individual that down the road we might bring him on here once in a while as an occasional guest so he can fit in with us. But getting back to my point, if you've ever called on to spring training, you can't get the obvious big names. You don't know exactly who's those out there. So you better know who your friends are with the PR department. All right, who do you want me to promote? I tell them. And then they'll give you a hint. You might run across that hidden gem. But what do you think happens? The guy turns out to be an outstanding player. And one of my favorite examples is Jake Rogers of the Detroit Tigers. Oh my goodness, he was acquired in the Verlander trade from Houston, and he became their starting catcher. And the list goes on and on. I'm just using Jake Rogers as an example, and I think that's the one thing. Well, people say, "Oh, I could get the superstar." Yeah, okay, they might try you the big names, but don't sit here and tell me a couple of years ago, a couple of years later, that that you're not glad that you got these types of guys, because they're the ones that are in the big leagues anyhow. And this is what you're doing, and I'm complimenting you again with what you're doing. And I look forward to seeing more and more of these type of story ideas, and we'll continue to educate our audience that way. One other topic we're going to get to, we'll go to a station break. Kurtis Rourke becomes the first Canadian-born QB raised, born and raised, I should say, selected in the NFL draft since Jesse Palmer in 2001. He was selected by the 49ers. The guy is 6'5", 223 pounds. Interesting quarterback room when you have Mac Jones in there along with Brock Purdy, and John Lynch is the mastermind of being able to put the team together, and Kyle Shanahan's a heck of a coach. Some thoughts about the move that the 49ers made with Kurtis Rourke.
I mean, obviously, being a guy going through the draft, being put into a franchise with a rich history like the 49ers is a blessing for any young man. But as you're saying, John Lynch knows how to wheel and deal. The fact that they've been able to move on from guys and bring guys in and things of that nature. I think what they're doing in that aspect is they're trying to make sure that they're not beholding to giving Brock Purdy a big 50-60 million dollar
Right.
contract, and say like, hey, like, listen, I think it's more of a talking about, like, hey, listen, we developed you. Who's to sit there and say we can't develop this kid, and he cannot have the same effect that you had as being Mr. Irrelevant a few years ago. So I
Right.
mean, I think it's a smart move for San Francisco, giving yourself a leveraging chip. So not just to if God forbid, potentially, like, Brock gets hurt, you're not inept at the quarterback position. You don't have depth there. It's one of the things, like, it's a what if league. Like, you don't know how long some of these guys can play at that elite level, at that top level, at that starter level, especially at the quarterback position. I don't think you could ever have enough quarterbacks in the room. People sit there and claim that Philadelphia's a quarterback factory. I don't see it, but we have over our history have had a lot of good quarterbacks. You look at San Francisco. I mean, come on now. You have two probably the better known quarterbacks to come out of San Francisco. Joe Cool Montana and Steve Young. It's one of those things, you can never have enough good guys in your quarterback room. It's always a good thing. Being one of the more recent Canadian born guys is just another feather in those guys from up north's cap, and continue to kind of bring that football talent down here to North America, and let's see them fly, my friend.
I agree. And the one thing I've learned in this industry, talking to GMs and so forth, is you have to look at a deal short term, midterm, and the present. So yeah, short term, rather long term, and then currently as it speaks. And in the case of the Tigers trade with Jake Rogers, Justin Verlander was shipped, ended up winning a world championship there. Another good example is Doyle Alexander led the Tigers to an immediate division title, and who the Atlanta Braves get, they got John Smoltz, so we know how well he did. So when you look at those examples of these individuals, that's what you have. Now, again, you make some excellent points on this part, because number one, yeah, I don't think they're going to pay Brock Purdy as much as he thinks he has. He's had good weapons around him, but think about it. Mac Jones is the guy I don't feel has gotten a fair chance anywhere. You lose Josh McDaniels, and then you ended up having two bad offensive coordinators that didn't really work out after that. So he says, I'm in a place where I know I can develop. You're going to start seeing quarterbacks going in a place where, forget the money, I want to go where I can develop with the right guy. And Mac Jones is that. And I think you got a hidden gem with Rourke. So it's interesting. He comes out of a pass friendly system with Indiana. And as a result, now you have a really solid quarterback room. It really is solid. And I think that that's where we're able to more or less understand the logistics of that. So great points all the way around. So, Katie, we'll give you a station break, one more topic, and we'll see what else he may have to offer. So these shows here, Professor People, are short and sweet, right to the point, but that's okay. We want to talk about lessons as well as certain topics. And I think one of the main focuses of this show is I like to emphasize Steve's articles. So I don't need to have what we call a long drawn out. The emphasis on this show is on Stephen Reichel. At some point down the road, we're going to add guests. It's no problem, but I want to focus on Steve and what he's learned being behind being able to type right on the keyboard. Go ahead, Candy.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our hosts, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about how the media business has changed over his 40 plus years. Old school media versus new school media. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. Get your copy today. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where both these fine gentlemen write. So go check it out. Again, that was www.southfloridatribune.com. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. You have show ideas or want to be a guest? Email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you like to listen to the podcast, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Back to you, Scott.
Thank you very much. All right. Candy put Ralph's comments up. You're correct. Rookie quarterbacks for 5 years make veterans expendable. Oh, go ahead. Comment. That's a heck of a comment from Ralph.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's why a lot of these guys that, you get some guys that are just journeymen, but you also get guys
Right.
that are insurance policies, and you have it where you're not putting yourself in a position where you're overpaying for the guy that's currently in the starter position. We
Right.
see how it cost the Giants. I wouldn't really say overpaid, but you didn't need to give Daniel Jones that big of a contract. He's, even when he was paid, he was still only the 12th highest paid quarterback. And as it is right now in the league, quarterbacks are being grossly overpaid just because it's the toughest position on the field, and you don't always get it right, and you need it. Like I'll keep repeating, you cannot have enough guys in that room. Cannot.
No question about a good point, Ralph. All right, one more topic I want to get to, and then Steve's going to preview what his agenda is after we're done here with Professor and People. We'll have a really great show tonight on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Lots of great topics to go. What I love about Professor and People is a great lead into baseball, and we have a lot of good, interesting baseball notes. We'll bring in more baseball topics as we go along with Steve. Right now, we're just trying to keep everything pretty straightforward and go from there. And again, he'll have other guests that we're going to incorporate as well. So there's a lot of things that we're working with to make the show what it is. And I think it's come a long way so far, but you haven't seen nothing yet, people. All right, Shadeur Sanders sandbagged his way to the 5th round with Cleveland. His NIL money in 2024 was $6.5 million, and NFL salary is $4.6 million, an average $1.16 million a year. Are you feeling sorry for this guy or what? And again, as the title indicates, will Shadeur Sanders be a force to be reckoned with, tied in with Brittany Force, so we have a force of the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for him, but it's also one of those things where he was victim to, regardless if it was bad advice that was given to his dad or just some of the things that he did under instruction from his dad. I mean, when you go to and do interviews leading up to this draft, everyone's sitting there saying, he's probably the number one or number 2 quarterback prospect in this draft, though he's definitely a first rounder. And then having your dad go out there and doing like media calls and sitting there doing podcasts, like, I know where I'm not going to allow my son to go play.
Right.
When you say that, you're cutting your opportunities off, and you're rubbing people the wrong way. Now, obviously, when I wrote the article, it's the Sanders versus the Shield. Well, Dion put his kid in a bad situation, and then Shadeur kind of he put an even bigger magnifying glass on him when he was going to some of these interviews, and regardless if he was purposely bombing or just the way he was going about the interviews, from what I was heard in the Giants interview, like I guess they gave him playbook stuff and he was just not prepared, things of that nature. So it's one of those things where you can feel bad to a point, but at some point in time, he's a grown man or young man. He has to take responsibilities for the things that he didn't take seriously. Right. So at this point in time, the fact that there was, Cleveland not only drafted a guy in front of him, the guy has made it very well clear he's taking the number 2. So not only that, so now you have a natural rivalry inside your own quarterback room. And for guys that were just drafted, that's not a bad thing. That isn't. It should absolutely motivate Shadeur, regardless of what the numbers are going or what number he's going to have or won't have when the season comes along. The fact that there's going to be a natural competition between them, I hope that it doesn't get personal, it doesn't get nasty or anything like that, and they just take it as like, listen, you're in the game now, you're on a team, you have a destination. I think what Shadeur did after the draft shows you even more. He's going in the community. He's already shown up there. He's already, he's being one of the first guys in the building. He's showing you his character. So yes, we can feel bad for him. Be a force to be reckoned with is completely up to him at this point. In this time, when I was talking to Justin Merriman last night, his tape don't lie. He is a top quarterback. You can have as many dislikes as you want him about how he handles this, how he acted like this. That's fine. You can be upset with that. He's still a young man at this point in time learning. It'd be different if we're talking about a guy that's been in the league, 5, 6, 7 years, something of that nature, when they're still acting in that way. Then I can sit there and see that. But I mean, do I feel like he was targeted against and torn down for reasons out of his control? Maybe a bit, but also some of it wasn't within his control, and acting on bad information, things of that nature. That's something he's going to have to learn now. He's in Cleveland. I think that he needs to kind of step up and do his thing. Will he be the force? It's really up to if he actually is going to make the team in Cleveland and what they can turn around and do with it. I think he's one of these guys that you can rally around. You can sit there and say, like, hey, you can have guys on the podium crying like TL, hey, that's my quarterback. I think he has that type of quality to him. It's up to him to put it on tape on the field.
You make a great point. There's no assurances that Shadeur Sanders is going to even make the team. There really aren't, from what I've heard.
There isn't. I mean, he's the fourth quarterback on the roster right now.
Right, exactly. That's my point.
Because you still got Watson there too.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you don't know what's going to happen there, so there's not a guarantee he's going to be in Cleveland Brown when we come start playing games in September. So he has to show them that he belongs there. Make it hard for them to not want to put the ball in your hands, to not want to move your name up the depth chart and things of that nature. As of right now, he's quarterback number 5 until they get rid of Deshaun Watson. You still have Kenny Pickett there. You still got Joe Flacco there. Either one of those two guys could still also not be on the roster. You have a natural competition going there. You got 2 rookies. You got 3 veterans. Let's see how everything shakes out after training camp, OTAs, and all that stuff.
Well, I like lighthearted shows, and Rourke gave me a reason to make this lighthearted. He said Shadeur Sanders will be the next Patrick Mahomes.
I don't listen, that's some big shoes to fill, man. Like Patty Mahomes wasn't, he did he fall? Yeah, it wasn't nearly as far down as it should have been. I mean, he didn't fall as far as Lamar. He didn't fall as far as a Jalen Hurts, who's been continually disrespected in this league. Despite the fact that he's one of the most winning quarterbacks since he's been in the league. It's tough, man. You can't really just go off of tape. You can't just really go off of what they did, and they have to show it on this stage, because some of these guys that they may have the greatest tapes in the world, but there's always everyone has their own kryptonite. I don't know if his attitude was going to be him, or does he have, maybe he's not the biggest guy. There's going to be something that's going to hold him back in this league. We have to find out if we're putting our Cleveland Brown hats on, if it's something you can live with and overcome.
All right, Steve, I want you to let everybody know what you have on tap for your programming this week, other than Inside the Pigskin tomorrow night.
Yeah, and we got a little surprise for the people who tune in tomorrow night, because we're gonna have another face added to our repertoire of people that it pops on. But I'm switching this week's show. I'm going to be going on in the afternoon instead of the morning. So the initial guest that I was going to have, we're going to have to reschedule for a later date. But we're going to be bringing on NBA veteran, former Philadelphia Sixer, former Los Angeles Laker, Jermaine Jones is going to be joining us. He's down there in the Georgia area, so it should be fun picking his brain, talking some basketball. Obviously, I think LeBron James and the GOAT topic will wind up being brought up, and that's another one that another article I'm going to wind up writing in the near future about the over sensationalization of the meaning of GOAT in sports in general, I think needs to kind of go away. You have guys who make so much impact on the game. There's generational talents and things of that nature. There's so many different ways to quantify this, and I'm getting worn out on the GOAT talk, and I think everyone else should too. So that should be a fun one. Going to be working out times and dates for a few more other athletes. I know had to reschedule two of my guests last week. I also more than likely going to have the karate combat two-time world champion, former UFC fighter Sam Alvey will definitely be joining me at some point in time this week. Okay. I'm working out times and days to potentially have recently signed BKFC fighter and UFC veteran Jessica Evoy, another Cleveland area fighter, and then I also have a female Cleveland amateur fighter, Lauren Flynn, who should also be joining us in the coming weeks. And I'm also working out getting former boxer and current BKFC fighter Johnny Garbarino, Mr. Cannoli himself. Should be a fun interview. We got a lot of fun stuff going on. Potential interviews with former Eagles offensive lineman and color commentary guy for the post game shows on NBC Sports in Philadelphia. And also working out, we'll figure out the rescheduling of one Ricky Waters. We got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline for what we're working out for the coming days, weeks, and months moving forward. But I'll just tell everyone, man, just make sure you're locked in. We got a lot of fun stuff going on, regardless if it's going to be on the professor and the pupil. If we push it to inside the pigskin, if we move it along lines to the fan in the end with me and Ben Troop. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff. So regardless if it's going to be on my show, if it's going to be on another one of the shows here on the South Florida Tribune Media Company here too, we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of insights from different people, not just ourselves, but the people we want to bring in on as well.
Well, it's funny. You gave me an idea on some of these other shows that are interesting that you want to bring on. You keep this in mind, and we're going to talk privately about it. We can bring them on a show called The Real and the Rare. That's an ideal show that we can bring them on. And I do that for different ideas. All right, let's go back to the chat room. Cyberuski said I'll be covering the Panthers and the Maple Leafs in about 10 minutes. That'll be an interesting series, too. You have the Toronto Maple Leafs who haven't won a championship in 1967. And Toronto does hold home ice advantage in that series. And the Florida Panthers are the defending champs. Hi, Stephen. Scott, thanks to have Mickey Delaney there. Josh and the guys are always locked in. Scott knows. Thank you very much. Josh and the guys, including Dylan Lozinski and Joshua Dorr, are always loyal and friends of the shows. We appreciate that. So it's really interesting thought. Also, you and I have a lot of work to do. We work on so many projects together, and we've only begun to hit the beginning. Why don't you let everybody know how they get a hold of you? Once again, at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to go to 108 Inches Baseball Talk. We lead in here with the professor and the pupil, a lot more great things in store. But as I mentioned to you, all those other individuals you're talking about, whether it's karate or whatever, we always have the real and the rare that we can bring them on, because these are rare opportunities and they're real sports that we can put on there. So we have different shows for different genres, as they call it in college. Go ahead, Steven. Take over. Let everybody know they can hold you.
I mean, basically, you can follow me, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. Just type in my name, Stephen Rochelle. On X, it's Steve Sport Talk 1. YouTube, just either type in Steve Sports Talk 1 or my name. You should be able to find me. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff. It's really easy to get a hold of me. And again, I'm always on here now, almost 4 or 5 times a week. So between Monday nights here on the Professor and the Pupil, Tuesday nights we got Inside the Pigskin. Wednesdays is the Fan in the End, and somewhere in between there we also have the combat sports show that I've recently launched is the Parting Shots. So there's definitely not a place you can't find me here on the South Florida Tribune Media Company. It's gonna, like I said, we're gonna continue to have fun, talk to some people, regardless if it's current athletes, former athletes, coaches, anyone that has a story to tell and some insight to give us. I'm definitely all ears.
Let me tell you, Inside the Fiction was one of our best shows last year, and a lot of the other individuals that participated, we're all thankful for them, whether it's Melfar Jr., Bo still contributes on the backside. Travis Holmes comes on when we need him. But what we've done, you and I and Ben Troop have done to revitalize that show is unbelievable. And Candy Ebling has done a super job as well, taking the full-time role. Because I'll tell you, all
the down there, we got to give Candy the love.
No. But this woman here, let me tell you one thing about her. She's so football savvy, it's ridiculous. I can remember a story as we get ready to turn it over to a station break where her and I are sitting at CC's Pizza right down the road on Black Monday, and we're talking about NFL coaching firings. I mean, how many women in their right mind would know anything about NFL coaching firings? And we would be watching the United Football League on Saturday night. I'm another woman that does both of that, and I'd be impressed. All right. With that said, the one that I just spoke about will give us the final station break of the night, and then we'll get ready to turn it over, and we'll talk some baseball. Go ahead, Candy.
Thanks, guys, for the kind words. South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Forward is written by George Eichhorn. Great stuff inside. There's even a picture of a young Scott with a young Muhammad Ali. So get the book to see the picture. Talks about old school media versus new school media, and it is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where both these fine gentlemen also write for us. So go check out the website. If you see that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, that means you have not subscribed to one of our channels, depending on which channel you're watching on. Please do so. Subscribe to both the channels. We have a plethora of great content on both of our YouTube channels, so go check it out. Hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends and family. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest or have show ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to the show, Scott.
Thanks. Kudos to those that participated in the chat room. Mickey Delaney, Cyberuski, Ralph Williams, to name a few. We appreciate them being on tonight to compliment Steve and I. And we continue to work towards making this show bigger and better each and every week. And that's something that we're striving for. It's a show you can learn from. And we try to take a few of the main events. And we're also here to promote Steve's writing, and as well as the other shows that we work together on. So, Steve, great time tonight. And we're going to continue to work not only building this, and now that as the show went on, we're going to be involved with, you'll be able to use the reel and the rare probably more on your own than I will, because I think that a lot of your guests sort of fit that persona, which I think is fantastic. So that's another resource that you'll have in your pocket as of tonight when you mentioned all those other things that you're going to be covering. So that'll be great. So this guy here is unbelievable. Love having him alongside of me on Monday night, let alone Tuesday or whenever he comes on the show with us. So with that said, Stephen, thank you very much for being on again, the professor and pupil. I'm also more appreciate that you're progressing in the book. You're 90 pages through it. That's great. You only have another 116 to go, which is better than most. Okay, but you're doing pretty good. The Evelyn Wood Speed Reading course is doing you well, and your Retention 101 isn't so bad either. So with that said, on behalf of Stephen Reichel, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Professor and the People. We'll do it again next Monday night, 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is next. Thanks again, Steve. We'll see you tomorrow night, my friend.
See you, everyone. See you. Have a good one.